Okay, now I think we're getting somewhere. And we're going to start the meeting. Thanks for bearing with us, everybody. Folks are still coming in. I'm Regina Flanagan, and I'm going to turn this over to Nate Ford.
All right. Well, thank you, Regina, and good evening, everyone. And welcome to the second artist information session for the I-94 Cass Avenue Bridge Public Art Project. The first session was held on January 22nd. I am Nate Ford, the Deputy Program Manager for HNTB and a member of the I-94 Modernization Project team. Joining me this evening are Regina Flanagan and Bradley Merrill. Regina is managing the public art project on behalf of the Michigan Department of Transportation, and Bradley is our Senior Public Involvement Representative for HNTB and a member of the I-94 project team. She will be assisting with the Q&A portion. Of course, we would prefer to be with you in person, but safety is our priority, and this format, though it has its limitations, keeps everyone safe. This 1-hour meeting will be divided into 3 parts. First, there will be a description of the project and a summary of the opportunities for public art on the Cass Avenue Bridge when it is rebuilt in 2022 through 23. Second, an explanation of how to apply for the project using call for entry. Third, we will respond to your questions about the project. This meeting will be recorded and the recordings will be posted on the I-94 website at i94detroit.org. Please note all attendees will be muted until we reach the Q&A segment. To ask a question at that time, please type your question into the chat using the icon at the bottom of your screen. Or if you called in, press *9 to raise your hand. And with that, we'll turn it over to Regina, who will continue with the presentation. Regina?
Thank you, Nate. Welcome to everyone who's joining us. And even as I speak, folks are continuing to join us. I'm having a little bit of computer difficulty here. And my slides are advancing on their own, but I think we're good now. Okay, deep breath. Welcome everybody that's joining us tonight. I'm artist, landscape architect, and public art administrator, Regina Flanagan. I'm speaking to you from St. Paul, Minnesota. Seitu Jones is on my team. He's a nationally recognized artist, also from St. Paul, and he's an advisor. I'm joined tonight by engineers Eric Polvey from HNTB and Doug Parmerly of AECOM, who are here to answer questions about the bridge that you might have later on. The Cass Avenue Bridge, this is the piece of the Zoom meeting that is going to be an orientation to the project. The Cass Avenue Bridge is part of the Michigan Department of Transportation's I-94 Modernization Project and includes 67 bridges. Here you see the Cass Avenue Bridge. The Cass Avenue Bridge is in Midtown, the location where basically Detroit's cultural district and education district is located. It includes the Cass Corridor, which is a famous corridor where many artists had studios, and Woodward Avenue, home to cultural and educational institutions such as Detroit Institute of Arts, the College for Creative Studies, and the C.H. Wright Museum of African American History, as well as the Museum of Contemporary Art Detroit and Wayne State University. This project, like the I-94 Rehabilitation Project, really has had a deep, rich community participation, and will continue that tradition. From the start, MDOT sought out voices across the community to help them to help inform the project design. And the guidelines for the project really talked about public art as being a key component of it, and that it would have a unique potential to meet the goal of having the corridor reflect the community's hopes for the freeway redesign and the community identity and Detroit's rich cultural heritage by contributing to placemaking, elevating aesthetic quality, and revealing history and culture. As part of the public art project, continuing this tradition of community involvement and care for the project, the artists will participate in 2 community forums that will be in person in Detroit during the artwork design phase. The first will be a kickoff meeting that will provide an opportunity for artists to interact with the community and gain inspiration. This forum in particular will be really developed with the artists using their working process and what will help them and most inform them about the things they need to do as they begin their design work. Then the forum number 2 will occur after the artist's design proposal has been reviewed and approved by MDOT. So there's further conversation that will be happening with the community. Consequently, the open call for artists has these project goals: that the artwork should invite and encourage pedestrian movement across the bridge, that it should activate the space and draw people to it, creating a memorable destination, and that the artists and teams are open to gaining inspiration through community engagement. The opportunities for public art are twofold. They include the land approaching the bridge, which has at the southwest corner a location for placemaking and public art. And on the bridge, the barrier walls. The project budget is $200,000. And now we'll go into a little greater detail about these 2 opportunity sites. The first one is the land approaching the bridge. The southwest corner has a site that's flat that measures 20 feet by 90 feet, roughly. That's the orange that you see depicted in the image on the left. And then there's a triangular area that is a green space that the artist can have a conversation with a landscape architect that is working on the project, or it could become an extension of the artwork site itself. So the artist can work with the area that's flat, but also this other green space area. And to talk about where it is, here's the site today before construction. It's actually next to the Wayne State University's parking ramp. And as you can see, it has a pretty sloped area down to the I-94 main line down here. And this is Cass Avenue. And this is the site before construction. Well, as you can probably figure out, the site itself will need some boundaries because there's a slope from the site down to the main line. So there's walls and railings that will enclose the site, and they become potential for an artist's work too, as far as considering the entire site for placemaking. So the walls and railings are potential, and the wall will basically be where you see the orange band on the right image, because as you can see, the site needs an edge for safety. The second opportunity is on the barrier walls. There are insets that are 1 inch deep, and the space for artwork within them is 1 foot 9 inches in height by 390 linear feet. That's on both sides of the bridge. That's about 696 square feet total inset area on the bridge. And I'm going to just double check here the waiting room to make sure that everybody's gotten in. We have 24 participants. Welcome to everyone. We're continuing on through talking through the opportunities on the bridge. Now, the previous slide, if I can get back to it, it's not letting me do that right now. The previous slide showed an example of the site. I'm going to have to do an escape here because I'm losing control of being able to navigate the slides. I think you can all see them still pretty well. But I'm going to go from this on my screen and I'll make it as large as possible, even though it won't be full screen, but I think it's still pretty viewable. The opportunity on the bridge includes these walls that you see here. And we're going to show you some examples. Here it is. This is the example I wanted to show. This is a bridge over the I-94 main line showing the barrier walls and fencing. And this is a bridge that's been built already. It's on Trumbull. So this is the inset area that we're talking about. And this is an example of also the fencing type that is mounted on the bridge. And here you can see the Comerica light fixture. Now, the barrier with insets is right next to the pedestrian sidewalk. But this bridge that's been built on Trumbull is not like the one that's going to be built on Cass. Here's the section for the Cass Avenue Bridge. And you can see it's quite a bit different. It has this pedestrian sidewalk where there's the inset and barriers. So pedestrians will be walking on this 9-foot wide sidewalk. Then there's a 6-foot wide planter, an 8-foot wide bike lane, and another 5-foot wide planter that functions essentially as a low profile traffic barrier. And then where you see the blue arrow, that's the traffic lane. So the Cass Avenue Bridge is a much wider, more pedestrian oriented bridge than the examples that are shown here, which is the Trumbull Bridge. So this one is just shown to, presented to show you the insets on the barrier wall. But this is the actual section of the Cass Avenue Bridge. The evaluation criteria, to go over that, the primary criteria obviously is the quality and ideas shown in your past work, evidence of completing projects of similar scope and complexity or progressively greater scale, that the past work is constructed of material durable in the outdoors, because obviously this is a real challenging kind of outdoor environment. We want to know about your ability to work collaboratively with government agencies, design and construction professions, and community groups in the creation of a project. And that's particularly important. Also, examples of gaining inspiration through structuring and conducting community engagement. And when I come to the point of talking about the artist statement, which is part of this application, I would urge you to talk about your experiences in particular that meet these evaluation criteria. And also primary is familiarity with the city of Detroit, its people and culture. Secondary is proximity to Detroit and the Cass Avenue Bridge site, the potential to involve students and youth in the process, especially during the summer design phase, and experience creating public art for a transportation project. So how to apply? We're using call for entry. This service is free for artists. And the first thing that you'll do is you'll set up a portfolio of your work online on the CAFE website and use it to apply. The process has 3 main steps. You'll be signing up for CAFE. Number 2 is you'll find the Cass Avenue Bridge open call and read about it. Think about it, spend some time, kind of thinking about your work relative to it, and then create a portfolio of your work on CAFE if you don't have one already. I'm putting the order this particular order up because I think it's really important to think about the bridge open call and before you construct your portfolio on Cafe, because you're really going to be responding to that call. And then apply for it using 6 to 10 slides of past work and up to 1 video, a statement addressing the Cass Avenue Bridge project in detail, and then your resume. So step 1, sign up for Cafe at www.callforentry.org. And when you go to the landing page, you'll see that there's the side for artists and for organizations. You're going to hit the button that says Artist Sign Up. Or if you're already signed up, you'll log in as an artist. Then you'll navigate to the call listings, and you can see here, this is an example. I've got a portfolio on Cafe, so I'm using my entry point as an artist to show you what you'll be seeing as an artist. You'll go to the call listings and you'll type in Cass Bridge and do a search, and up pops the public art for the Cass Avenue Bridge, Detroit, Michigan call. So you'll read through that. This is the short description, 4 paragraphs, but you hit the button that says more info and you'll get the complete description and complete call. And here you'll see that now you're in the Cass Avenue Bridge project long description. And included in that is a pop-up that has site details, which you see here. I popped this up. It's some of the things that you're seeing tonight, talking about the 2 locations and giving pertinent details. And then there's a much longer description there that you'll read. Well, when you're ready, you'll hit the Apply Now button, the green button. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead of myself, but okay, I wasn't ready to apply yet. I'm setting up my portfolio. So here you are creating your portfolio, uploading media. This is my stuff here, but this is what it will look like. And you'll have that all ready to begin to go to the application. But if you're new to this, entirely new to this, and you're wondering, saying I need more detail about how to apply, you can check out Call for Entry's Help for Artists. They have a series of short videos that will actually walk you through the project process of how to upload your media and how to apply for calls. So they have very good and helpful support for artists right on their own website. Okay, now you're ready to apply. You've hit the green button that says Apply Now, and it takes you to this, and this is the actual application screen. It's called Form Questions. The first thing you'll do is you'll select a category. And there are 3 categories, and you're going to be applying in one of them. You're going to be applying for placemaking and public art for the Southwest Bridge approach. You're going to be applying for barrier walls, or you're going to be applying for both. So you're going to select a category. Then the artist statement is right here. It's basically cut and paste. So I'd suggest working at this also when you're working on setting up your portfolio online, because then you can cut and paste it right into this document. It's 2,000 character limit. And in particular, here I would give you the advice, and it's actually also included in the long description in the open call, that this is your opportunity to make a connection between your past work and this project. Applications with a general artistic statement not addressing this project will be disqualified. So I'll be looking through your application and making sure that you've really given some good thought to this project, and also written about it in a way that the panelists, the Public Art Advisory Committee, looking at your application, can see the connection between your work and this project. I'm going to read you a little bit more from the long description that has some advice about the artist statement. Address the specifics of this opportunity and talk about how you will approach the project, how you will find inspiration for your work, your ideas for community engagement. Highlight your familiarity with the city of Detroit and the site. If you're applying to integrate art in both locations, please talk about potential materials that will be within budget. That's an important point because you might think, I can do both locations, but really figuring it out, the budget, just kind of in your head about your work relative to this project, $200,000 would be sufficient for one site or the other site. Each site, the placemaking at the Southwest Bridge approach or the barrier walls, either one of them could use up the $200,000 site budget. So really, if you're talking about both locations, it would be helpful for us to understand, what materials you're intending to use, and how, you think that would be within the $200,000 budget. But please note that we're not requesting a proposal at this time. So this is just some of your preliminary thoughts and your approach to the project. So that's the artist statement. That's what the artist statement hopes to capture. And then there's another area where you plug in your resume, especially highlighting public art projects and activities. And then you save it and then scroll down, and at the bottom, you will have your work samples. They'll be right there, and you'll pick out 10 work samples, and that's the application. Okay, we're having some stalling here again. There we go. The anticipated timeline, to tell you a little bit more about the timeline for this project. The deadline for applications is Monday, February 28th, 2022, midnight Mountain Time, because call for entry is located in Denver, so Mountain Time. The selection process will be underway during March and April. Artists will be notified of the outcome about mid-May. Then an artist will be put under contract and they'll begin work. We expect to have a community forum #1 in-person event in Detroit that will kick off the design period in mid-June 2022. Fingers crossed that it will be safe to do it at that time. We're really hopeful that we can do in-person events. Because it's so important, particularly, during the design process to be able to gather insights and inspiration that way. Then early August 22 will be the design presentation. Sometime in August, later on, we'll have the community forum #2, in-person event in Detroit, where the design is introduced to the public. And then the fabrication and installation of artwork. The construction of the bridge is intending to get underway in November 2022 and will continue on until November 2023. So sometime within that time frame, later on in 2023, the artwork will be installed. So it's time for your questions. Please type your question using the chat button at the bottom of your screen or raise your hand to speak. Or if you called in, press *9 to raise your hands. At this time, I'd like to stop the share and check in with Bradley to see what we have in the chat.
Regina, I don't see any questions in the chat just yet, and I'm not seeing any hands raised. So if you have okay, we just got one. So how can artists apply through CAFE as a team?
Yes, artists can apply as a team through CAFE. 10 examples of work from the team. Likewise, you'll have to very efficiently put together a resume that really highlights each team member. Then also that we ask that, let's see here, that if people apply as a team, that they identify one kind of lead contact. So there's some kind of creative, work that'll have to happen, I think, for call for entry in order for a team to put together an application. You'll have to create a portfolio that has a variety of members' work in it, first of all, so that when you call up the portfolio, it comes up. So it might be a good idea to do it under one artist's name. And then that would be the lead contact artist. This process, that we're using with the jury, we'll have them looking at the 10 examples at the same time they're looking at your statement and the artist's resume. So I don't know who asked this question, but did this kind of clarify some things for you? And are you familiar with CAFE? Have you been on CAFE before? Am I talking, at a sufficient level that you understand kind of my meaning?
Okay, we can go to the next question, I believe.
Okay.
So
Come back if I haven't explained it well enough. You can add something.
yeah, we can go back. So the next question is, did you get an answer about mosaic and weight? So if you remember in our last artist session, you mentioned a question that you had got via email.
Yes. And that question had to be worked through a number of layers. The engineers had to look at it. MDOT had to weigh in also. So I'm going to turn to Eric Polvey to talk about this a little bit further. He's an engineer with HNTB Corporation and is the lead contact with Michigan Department of Transportation.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, we did get an answer from MDOT, and the weight is not a concern for the bridge design. I think in the question, it was stated that it would be between 2 and 5 pounds per square foot for mosaic, tile or glass. So the weight is not a concern. The concern, or not really a concern, but the direction we would like to give everybody is that inch recess is all that we can afford to utilize on the face of the barrier. So any tile or glass cannot intrude or take away from the barrier shape of the concrete. And also any tile or glass cannot go beyond that 1 inch and stick out beyond the face of the barrier, because that would create a snagging hazard for pedestrians and other activities on the bridge.
Eric, that would include any mortar to affix the tiles, correct?
That would be correct. Yeah, the inches. Yes, exactly.
And you were just hearing from Doug Parmerly with AECom, so the other engineer that's with us tonight. Yes, all of these materials on the bridge, everything has been tested to be, engineered for public safety. So that's an important point to bear in mind. And now I'm going to, I see there's a question about the $200,000 budget per piece or in total. This kind of shades into, the conversation we just had. And you'll see in a minute why. $200,000 in funding from the state of Michigan has been committed for artwork. I'm reading from the open call right now. The project must meet both federal highway administration and state design guidelines. And so some of that conversation we just had about weight has to do with the design guidelines. The budget must cover all the artist's fees, costs, and expenses, including engineering fees associated with designing, fabricating, and installing the artwork. So $200,000 in total is, you can think of it this way. And now we're kind of looping back to some things I said previously, which now might make more sense. in context that $200,000 to develop the site that is 20 feet by 90 feet, the flat area, and parts of the wall that could use up the entire $200,000 budget. The square footage for the insets, for example, I think I did preliminary calculations on that, and it came up to something like $250 per square foot for the dimensions that I mentioned in linear feet and square footage. So, so that's a ballpark figure for instance, ceramic tile or mosaic tile. And the work could be of greater or lesser complexity and cost more or less, but you kind of get my drift that the $200,000 could be used up in the barrier walls by themselves or the site by itself. But there is also some site development, including the walls, that will be built and provided as part of the bridge construction project. So the graphic that I showed you that had the walls wrapping around and enclosing the site, they would have to do that anyway, for public safety. And it's intended that a fence be on top of that as well. So because there's a slope down to the main line, just on the other side of that flat area. So there's $200,000 for the site, the placemaking in the site is, there's some give and take in that. And there's also landscaping that's been budgeted for and bid for the green triangle that I showed. And there can be some interaction, with the artist on that as well. Is there anything you would like to add, Eric, about that?
No, I think you hit it, Regina. Right now, the landscaping has been designed and let on the bridge itself and in a couple of the approaches. Right now, that area that was in green next to the area in orange has not been landscaped yet. So we will be looking for input from designers, from artists, in order to, we're looking for input for that area. So it's really an open canvas right now. But you don't need to design that landscaping unless you would feel appropriate that you could design landscaping within your $200,000 budget.
Mm-hmm. So there's some give and take there, and yep. All of this begins to get worked out as we work with artists throughout the design process. Looks like we have some more questions though.
Yes. Okay. So the next question, in the previous meeting, it was established that a form liner could be utilized while the cement sidewalk barriers are poured / created in collaboration with MDOT. Could that same collaboration occur with the consideration of casting dowels or anchor bolts in place while the cement is plastic? Using materials in accordance with the qualified products list as stated in MDOT standard specs for construction, section 804, part C.
Then there's a little more.
Oh, there's a little more. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a long question. It's technical, but we're gonna.
If not, could it be? Yeah. If not, could it be considered to drill holes for dowels into the hardened concrete barrier and grout dowels in place using non-shrinking grout, also cited in section 804 part C?
I'm going to turn to Eric on that one. Because Eric has the most direct contact with MDOT, and some of these things that are being asked, we may not have an answer to right now. But I'm not going to offer one. I think it's more appropriate for Eric to kind of weigh in on this and give an opinion.
Right. I think the initial thinking was that the form liners would be in place and cast with the barrier. What the process you described there isn't uncommon, but I guess we're punting twice. Doug, I'd like to get your opinion on that, just to see if that methodology of construction would do anything to the barrier crash worthiness.
My gut tells me that drilling in all those attachments probably would not be acceptable to the department. But that's just my gut. Probably would require conversation with the department, Eric, I assume, to kind of go over that kind of thing.
Yep. Thank you, Doug. That was my gut reaction as well, Colleen.
Yeah.
The intent was to sort of have the form liner there when they're pouring the barrier.
Do you think, Eric, that you could have this conversation with MDOT and convey some further information? We're going to later this week, and we're going to mention this later on, but this is an important point, I think, to mention it now, that we're going to do a Q&A also of the things that came up during these sessions, the Zoom sessions, and then also I've gotten some questions that were in emails, and put those together. To all of it, it will be up on the i94.org website in a Q&A. So do you think that this particular question, Eric, might be a good candidate for further discussion with MDOT and then clarification in the Q&A?
Yep, absolutely. I just wrote it down, and we can talk to MDOT this week about it and get back to folks with a definitive answer.
Terrific, thanks. So we'll continue to track with that one. Looks like we have some more.
We do. If applying as a team, will you be understanding that a 200 character artist statement is not a lot of space to introduce and address the key points you make clear?
2,000 character artist statement is kind of the maximum for call for entry. Basically, the jury, the panelists will be looking at your past work, getting a general impression from your artist statement and your resume. They will be spending, a certain amount of time looking at all of it, but probably looking at it very quickly. So to be concise, 2,000 words, you would not be talking about, for instance, what was the question about the Dells, the grout in the Dells? No, you would be talking about big picture things, pointing to some of the work that you've done previously that you think is, a kind of a similar line of thinking that would be a match for the Detroit project, etc. So the statement, it's a challenge for jurists to kind of put this all together, but being concise in your statement, will really help everyone, including yourself, I think. And I realize 2,000 words, if your team is a big team, is kind of tricky. But if, for instance, you've worked together on another project, you can point to that project and talk about the roles each person had, and what they did. That's a very concise and simple way to talk about a team and make your case for this project. But you really need to kind of pick out what you're going to highlight, because the jury is going to, look at this and look at your portfolio at one glance, putting it all together. So I know as an artist myself, I just spent, time doing an application where I was dinkering around with, they had characters and spaces. Now that's crazy. This is what it is, right? We do the best we can with these systems that we have. But being concise is a good thing. I mean, sometimes 2,000 characters can get you there and help you produce a stronger statement. So look at it optimistically, I guess. All right.
So next question, installation with your team only or with the Department of Transportation as well?
That's an interesting question, and that one came up in the last Zoom meeting as well. There's a couple of things, and then I'm going to turn to Eric and have him weigh in on this too. Frequently, installation is so specialized that the artist must and should retain control of it. But it may be the case that an artist selected, decided to do form liners, for example, that could be poured at the time when the barrier walls are poured, for example. So the installation, could be integrated with a process that's ongoing, which, could be a very smooth process, but it all depends on the media and also the timing. So Eric, why don't you pick this one up and run with it?
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Regina. It really all depends on the medium. Ideally, the timing works out where the form liners can be provided to the contractor and the barrier can be performed at the same time. That would be one instance. For the southwest quadrant, the contractor will be building that enclosure wall, the wall that, if you can recall back to the presentation, it was highlighted in orange. The contractor will be building that wall and flattening out that area and making it ready for an artist to install whatever the medium may be, whether it's a placemaking area, whether it's a sculpture, whether it's fancy benches. So in a case like that, an artist could work more independent of the contractor. So I hate to sound wishy-washy, but I think the answer is it kind of depends on the medium, if that makes sense.
Okay, next question. Do more people approach from the north or south side? As in, would folks see the sculpture element first or more likely after crossing the bridge?
I'm wondering if it might be helpful to share a screen on this and get back to the visuals. I'm going to do that, and I've got some strange layering going on here, but
while you're doing that, Regina, I know that we did take detailed traffic counts for vehicles and pedestrians crossing the bridge. So I believe we have that data, how many people are going northbound versus how many people are coming southbound. So we can look that up and provide a definitive answer on that. I sense, since this is in the central business district of Detroit, you're going to get a pretty balanced 50-50 mix. People coming into the city in the morning and maybe going out towards the outer elements of the Detroit area, and in the evening. But it's also a campus. So I think my gut's telling me it's pretty evenly split. It's going to be about a 50-50.
Yeah, so he has average daily traffic counts probably available. And as you can see from the map that I just popped up here, Wayne State University is on one side, and then New Center and a lot of Wayne State University buildings are also across Cass Bridge. So that's why there's such a strong pedestrian orientation to this bridge design in particular. That might help explain a few things. Woodward Avenue, for those of you not in Detroit, is where the Detroit Institute of Arts is located, the College for Creative Studies, etc. So there's a lot of movement throughout this district. And also Detroit just built what do you call your light rail system on Woodward? What is that called?
The Q line?
The Q line goes up and down Woodward. So there's a lot of, there's becoming more of a pedestrian orientation and circulation pattern developed in this area. And this bridge is actually part of that. And if anybody who's from Detroit would like to add something, you're welcome to do so here. I'm going to get back to some of the photos of the site, which might be helpful.
While you're doing that, if there's no other comments on that, we can go to the next question. What is the artist fee for the project?
The artist fee. The artist fee for the project is included in the $200,000. That's the outer kind of parameters of the project. And as artists get into working on the project, those of you that have done a lot of public art before, have the capability to do a cost estimation that pulls out your materials, fees, your sub-consultants, subcontractors, etc. But for those of you that might be trying this the first time out, I, as a public art administrator, can help you with providing a budget document that helps you to begin to itemize all of the significant cost categories associated with your work. It's a form that I've used with artists for a number of years, and it's basically built off from a Schedule C from the income tax forms, because recognizing that you're a small business and you're going to be reporting in a certain way. So there's a budget document that I can make available for those of you that need help, for instance, figuring out what your fee will be. And, it's always a balancing act between, how much do you design and what materials do you use, and your artist fees and what you need to see from the project. So, but I have to tell you that the 200,000 is inclusive, and it includes artist fees.
Thank you, Regina. Next question, will your selection committee understand that team resumes will be in some cases significantly abbreviated to make room for a combined 5,000 character total for 2 individual team members?
Yes, they will understand that. That will be in the direction to them. That's why we're giving you kind of a lot of direction regarding the statement and what we would want to see in it, and the kinds of things highlighted, and why a general statement you see just isn't useful. So you really need to target your application to this project. It's not a cut and paste if you're in cafe and have a portfolio. You really need to give some thought to this and be concise. So yes, they'll understand that.
Yes, thank you. The next question is, will there be a finalist round after initial submission?
That's to be determined. Generally speaking, if the committee, it depends where we land. If they're unanimous about one artist in particular, and it's clear that that's the best match, there's no kind of necessity for going on to additional rounds of interviews and so forth. But if there's several artists they're curious about and they would like to hear more from, then there is the alternative that we could do a finalist interview round, and that would probably be conducted via Zoom. So it all depends on where the committee, the Public Art Committee, lands.
1 second. I'm also taking notes on the questions as I'm reading them. So if we utilize a form liner, does that mean that only the cost of the design and fabrication of the form liner would be the responsibility of the artist, but the cost of the concrete work itself will be part of the bridge construction budget?
Boy, that's an interesting question. I think that's the kind of thing that requires, I'm going to get to the barriers and the form liner issue here visually. I think that will be a discussion with Michigan Department of Transportation and the contractor. And I'm going to ask Eric to weigh in on this one too.
Right. And I'm going to, Doug, just a heads up, I'm going to ask for your opinion as well. But as soon as an artist is selected and we know what that barrier recession depth needs to be, well, you have an inch to play with, right? But if we need to modify it in any way to add more concrete so that the indentions from a form liner could be captured appropriately, that concrete addition would be captured by the construction budget. So I think in general, the answer is form liner costs would be the artist's responsibility. Any concrete related to form liner installation would be part of the construction budget.
Yeah, Eric, I might have a different opinion on that, but again, I think this is something we might have to talk to MDOT about.
Okay.
I'm not completely clear on the rules here, so I guess I would think that the material costs would be MDOT, but I'm not sure. Material cost and forming costs, and that would be construction costs, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so thanks, Doug. And that's definitely one I just jotted down here to get MDOT's opinion on, and we can go back to the team on that.
Yeah, we'll note that as one to circle back to and make available when we put our Q&A up. Next question, would MDOT and the community be open to a contemporary design / sculpture that took up space within / on the flat 90 to 20-foot area and also potentially spilled down and into the green sloped space?
I'm going to kind of clarify this one first before we talk about that. And this will give Eric a little bit of time to think about this, how to answer it at this point. But the sloped area, that's, I'm going to go to it here. Where is it? This is the wall right here. So we can't put anything on this sloped area that is down to the main line. That would not be allowed for safety purposes. So I presume the artist is speaking of this green space that we're looking at right here, which is up top, and it's kind of right back in there. It's more flat. It's like at the crest of that slope down. So let's answer the question with the understanding that we're looking at the 170 by 40 roughly space right here. So would MDOT, I'm going to just replay this question. Would MDOT and the community be open to a contemporary design sculpture that took up space within and on the flat 90 by 20-foot area and also potentially spilled down and into the green slope space? So this doesn't really spill down. So we're going to say, I think this is the gist of the question. And if it isn't, you can let me know. But can the artist work with this green area as well as the flat area? And I believe the answer is yes, but and it looks like the person that asked it says that I'm construing it appropriately. So Eric, we had talked about this. Yeah.
Yep, everybody's correct there. Yep.
Okay. So that space is open to influence by the artist, but it's not sloped, just to make that clear. And I might add the retaining wall, or the wall that we were looking at, where is it depicted? Right here. Here's a pretty good example of approximately what the wall might look like. But if you can imagine with railing on top of it, it would turn and go back and then bound the site here to create an enclosure. Then this edge right here is going to be fenced also, but with a transparent fence that is more like this. So the landscaped area will be enclosed also along that edge. So it does, at the crest down to the main line. So at the crest of that slope. Okay, I'm sorry about this. It's hard to keep this all straight, but I think you kind of get the drift here. And he says yes, he understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We are 3 minutes. Oh wait, we got one more question. How much of that green space can be seen from the highway?
Probably not too much, except if there are vertical elements, I would think. Because if you can imagine this orange band being the wall, and then the enclosure, being back over here, unless the element is vertical, you wouldn't see it from the main line. Likewise, for the anything sited on the flat area right here. Now, when we say in the guidelines or the open call that whatever is done with the site is must meet both federal highway administration and state design guidelines, there will be some things to talk about regarding vertical elements. And I guess, I'll leave it at that right now because of sight lines and distractions and just general safety concerns. But all of that is something to be discussed, as we get farther down the line. But it becomes actually a kind of a design challenge, something that you as an artist will be thinking about during design.
Regina, I would just like to add though, in your picture here shown on the screen, everyone see that 20-foot dimension? There will be a full height retaining wall added to the west or to the left of that 20 feet in the future. So Regina was right on, really the only thing that would be visible from the freeway would be a vertical element. Everything else that's at ground level will be hidden from the freeway view in the future.
How tall is the full height retaining wall?
Oh boy, it's 20 plus feet probably.
Now that's from the main line all the way up.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Visible if you're traveling on the main line I-94, looking to your right as you approach Cass Avenue driving eastbound, it would be approximately a 15 to 20 foot high retaining wall.
Yeah.
Basically the height that you see there will just be continued.
Yeah. Wrapping around. Yeah.
So there will be, there will be sound walls. Another comment in the chat.
Well, these would be retaining walls because they're retaining the earth. There technically is sound walls on the project, and sound walls go through or the requirement for sound walls go through a noise analysis and meet federal requirements for noise levels in the area. So there are actually sound walls that are designed in particular areas of the corridor, and those are driven by an analysis that we've done. I don't know if we have a visual we can share right now, but that's the long answer for no, these aren't sound walls, these are retaining walls, but they look the same essentially.
Okay, we are right at 8 o'clock. So I'm going to stop it here because we're at 8 o'clock. Do we have any last minute questions? Seeing none and seeing no hands raised, I will turn it back over to Regina and Nate.
Yes. These were all really excellent questions and some really tough ones too. And as I'm gonna get some of this out of the way here. My apologies for, all of the information we put in front of you here, but the questions have been excellent. We really appreciate your participation. And now I'll turn it over to Nate to have him wrap it up.
Well, thank you, Regina. And thank you, esteemed artist in residence, if you will. We appreciate all of the questions raised, and we look forward to receiving your interest in the very, very near future. I will share with you that a recording of this particular presentation with questions will be posted on the i94detroit.org website within the next week, within the next 7 days. We've been very fortunate to get that up even before the 7 days, but we'll give ourselves a little grace period. But That will be posted up, so you can refer to the website to reference any questions that were raised from tonight's website. I want to thank you again all for your participation tonight. And if you have any additional questions, please contact Regina at Regina, that's REGINA, at Art Landscape Design, ARTLAND SCAPE Design, DESING.US. Again, that's Regina, REGINA, at Art Landscape Design, ARTLAND SCAPE DESIN.US. Again, as a reminder, the recording of the session and the February 7th, tonight's recording will be posted on the project website at i94detroit.org. On behalf of the HNTB team, artist team, if you will, we'd like to thank you for taking the time to receive our presentation this evening. And again, we look forward to receiving some out of sight presentations for the Cass Avenue Bridge design. So again, thank you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And until we meet again.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you all. And I do notice that Bradley put the previous artist session link up in the chat, if you'd like to take a look. But thank you all for participating and have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody.
Have a good one.